Hello, hello. This is Jeree from HQ with your coach's notes for Friday, September 2nd. Let's go. We're going to do some snatches first. They're going to be smooth snatches, smooth off the floor. And then we're going to get hot with some burpee box jump overs, followed by dumbbell snatch. And then we're going to try not to fall apart on those muscle ups. Let's talk about strength. Strength is an EMOM. It's every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. So each minute we're going to do one snatch high pull and one power snatch. The points of performance for my classes will be creating tension in the setup. In Zeth's notes in the programming, it talks about how we should emphasize the smooth first pull before the explosive extension of the second pull. And so I'm going to do that through talking about creating tension in the setup. And I'm going to look for those athletes who regrip and regroup and try to correct that. So sometimes you see that and they open their hands up and then regrip the bar right before they rip it off the ground. Sometimes it's a little hitch in their hips where they start to stand up and then they lower their hips and then they pull their hips up really fast. And then sometimes it's an elbow bend while the bar's still on the ground, and so they kind of wind up by bending their elbows and then kind of pushing off the ground in order to grip and rip. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to make that first pull smooth. For those who have that down and they have a smooth first pull, but maybe they've got a little pause and lurch in the middle of that, like right as they transition from the first pull to the second pull, they look like a 15-year-old learning how to drive a stick shift. For those people, we're going to try to smooth that out. And we're going to try to make that no hitch in the transmission. We're going to try to shift gears like a high-performance race car. So with that, I'll probably just emphasize taking their hips out to the bar with that straight bar path, taking their hips to the bar instead of pulling the bar back to the hips, and then humping the bar into a loop up over their heads. For all of my classes, as we've been doing these high pulls, I've been talking about dropping the high pull and resetting before the snatch, and I'm going to continue to encourage that. Last week, Terry Brown asked me why I encourage my classes to do that, and so since he had that question, I thought it might be worth addressing here with you as well. And so I do that because I feel like subconsciously, if you know you have to hold on to the bar after that high pull, if you know you have to hold on to that bar in order to control it back into a good position for a power snatch, then you probably turn the volume down on either your hip extension, your pull, or both. And so you're really already thinking about control. So subconsciously, not intentionally, you mute the power of that extension and pull. So rather than do that, I would like for them to get the full benefit of that drill to grease the groove for that power snatch. And so I encourage them to drop the bar and then reset that nice setup position with some high tension, and then squeeze the bar off the ground, shifting gears smoothly into that power snatch. Lastly, I like to have my classes, since we're training in class and not competing, and this isn't a barbell cycling training session, this is a single power snatch, I'm going to ask people to own that receiving position. And by that I just mean kind of pause, absorb the bar before we stand up. A lot of times you see people are so eager to get the lift over that they rush that part of it. And so they're actually coming up while the bar is still coming down. There's a little bit of a collision there, and so they might lose the lift or have to chase it or just be uncomfortable. So I'm going to, right before we start, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but right before we start, I'm going to say, hey, let's go ahead and pause when we receive that bar. Hang out there for just a moment before we stand up. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have for the strength. Let's talk about the workout. Oh my goodness, 25 burpee box overs. If you've seen me do burpee box overs, you're going to know this is going to eat me alive. 25 of them. And we're encouraging people to come out hot. The scoring note says that the athletes need to look at the clock when they finish their burpee box overs, and then that time is going to be added to their total time to get their score in sugar wad. And so we need to go for it on the burpee box overs. This is lactic endurance. That's the stimulus today, lactic endurance. And so we need them to go for it, not pace those burpee box overs. They just go for it and then try to hang on. And so I originally recorded these coaches' notes talking about how I would spend some time in personalizing the muscle up scaling for athletes, and then I reconsidered that. The emphasis of this workout is the burpee box overs, and so that's where I'm going to spend my next level coaching time, is on the burpee box overs. And so since we don't have multiple rounds or high rep muscle ups, I don't think it's the time to really dial in some options for people who don't have ring muscle ups. I think it's okay to go ahead and say ring muscle up, bar muscle up, chest to bar, pull up, jumping pull up, ring rows into dips, something like that, something very simple that they can do while completely taxed and out of breath. I think if I spend too much time trying to make this perfect muscle up modification for the person who doesn't have muscle ups, then I've taken away from the point of those burpee box overs effectively counting twice. So those burpee box overs can work for you or against you. Let's make them work for you by being very efficient. Drop to the ground, eliminate extra steps. And let's talk about when to breathe. So there are lots of opportunities to be a next level coach today. We talked a little bit about the snatch corrections, and I'm going to make those snatch corrections by really working the room through that EMOM. There's 10 minutes, and so I may stagger some of the athletes to have some of them starting at the 15 and some of them starting at the 30, particularly for those athletes that like to be coached. That way I can see more people. And then on the burpee box overs, I already mentioned no extra steps. So a lot of times people, have a few extra steps in there as they're stumbling over the box. And so we'll spend our time prepping for that by practicing some efficiency, and talking about how brilliant Katie Sondag is at these, and how she has no extra steps, and how you need to plan your exhale for when your chest hits the ground and then breathe as you go over the box. And so there are lots of opportunities to be a next level coach, even on a movement that seems super simple and basic, like a burpee box over. Let's talk timeline. I'm going to set my watch to only talk for 2 minutes. I know that's shocking to those of you who are listening to my long coach's notes right now, but I'm going to set my watch to only talk for 2 minutes at the whiteboard, and I'm really just going to talk about how we're high-performance machines today. Sometimes we're long-haul truckers, but today we're high-performance machines, and so we don't want to be a 15-year-old driving a stick shift and lurching through those snatches. We want them to be smooth, and we want to have a nice smooth transmission when we shift gears from the first pull to the second, and then from the second to the third. And then in the workout, we're race cars, we're high performance machines, and so we're going to take off that starting line and just go like hell. Then we're going to spend about 8 minutes getting hot and warming up our shoulders before we spend 8 minutes with a PVC pipe and barbell. So I'm going to split the time there. Some specific PVC pipe work that's going to be very Bergner-like in style, and then a barbell warm-up that gets the plates on the bar. The only way I'm going to find those people who regrip and regroup in their snatch is if I have them in the proper setup position. So even if that means a training bar with some of those big fives, that gets the bar up off the ground, and then I can see, are they the type of people that regrip and regroup or not. So we'll spend about 8 minutes there with the PVC pipe and barbell before we move into 2 minutes of just personalizing it, answering questions, getting the clock set up, and then it's a 10-minute workout. So that gets us to the 30-minute mark in class. For the next 10 minutes, we're going to get set up. We're going to clean up our snatch. We're going to get set up with our boxes and get set up for claim our spot for on the bar and on the rig, on the rings, and get set up for the WOD, go through a short version of it, like a primer, let people get their heart rates up again. And then as far as what this workout's going to take, I've allotted 13 minutes. I think we'll have some 6 and 7 minute people. I think most of our people are going to fall in the 8 to 11, 8 to 12 minute range if they modify it properly. And then we'll have those outliers that overestimated their either their muscle up capacity or didn't scale it right, or made some other sort of mistake in the workout, making them a 13 plus. And so I'm going to take it personally if I have anybody in that 13 plus range, because if we are coaching them properly and getting them to be mindful of the stimulus of the workout, then we're going to coach them into that 6 to 13 minute range. Clean up and follow up, passing out high fives. I've allowed 4 minutes for that because we have boxes and dumbbells and we need to wipe everything down. And so I've allowed 4 minutes there and then 3 minutes for cushioning goodbyes. So that is 7 minutes. So that means if I needed to break this workout up into 2 heats, I could totally do that because I have from the 40 to the 60, so I have 20 minutes there. I could totally break this up into 2 heats. I'd be very mindful of how I did that. Those people that are ring muscle up ninjas could all go in 1 heat, and then you're looking at a 6 to 8 minute heat versus that being a 6 to 13 minute heat. Okay. One more thing, I have follow-up underlined, and so anytime I scale or modify something for somebody, I like to follow up with them afterwards and say, did we make a good decision? And so I just kind of emphasize that right there is at the end of class, if you change something for somebody because they had a little niggle in their ankle or in their shoulder, and so they couldn't do this or that, and so you gave them a modification, I'm going to encourage you to go find them in that last couple of minutes of class and just say, did we make a good decision? And if we did, yay, let's high five and celebrate. That's a good decision. And then reinforce that. Or if we didn't make a good decision, let's talk about what went wrong and how we could correct that going forward. Okay, lots of opportunities to be a next level coach. I think this looks like a really fun day to coach class and maybe a fun day to be an athlete too. That's it. Thank you guys.